It is supposed that the Roman Catholic Saint Valentine was put to death by the Roman Empire in approximately the year 270 of the Common Era. His crime? He had defied Emperor Claudius II by marrying couples in secret to spare men from going to war. What a lovely, compassionate, dangerous act of non-compliance against tyranny. Today, St. Valentine is the patron saint of lovers, of travelers, and oddly, of beekeeping. It is said that he wrote a final letter before his death to his jailer's daughter, signed, "Your Valentine." And the world has come to commemorate his life and death each year on February 14th. So a belated Happy Valentine's Day. How many of you remember, this should be an easy one, COVID-19? Remember the initial terror? The years of fear? The sheltering in place, the loss, the isolation, the deaths. We have known trauma, unlike any in our lifetimes. And we survived a global pandemic. Can we all just take a breath and be grateful for that? And yet, having been resilient enough to endure and survive a modern-day plague, it seems that now, every day, we also must guard against moral injury. The profound psychological, social, and spiritual distress resulting from perpetrating, failing to prevent, or simply bearing witness to acts of violence or injustice that transgress deeply held moral values. Every day, it seems, we experience the traumas and stresses caused by a world on fire and by crises in our own lives. As our interlude described, ashes fall from burning dreams. We've never lived through times like these. We're trying hard to breathe in the dark. And here we are. We arrive here at this fellowship, as our chalice lighting noted, worn, weary, or wide awake. Here we take time together to acknowledge the pressure of living, the tender ache of persisting through uncertainty, the courage of continuing when clarity is distant. Thankfully, researchers assure us that the ability to overcome adversity is more the norm than the exception. And along with the often terrible daily news, we learn about examples of hope and resilience every week. Neighbors helping neighbors, carpenters repairing broken doorways for free, tow truck operators delivering abductees' cars home for no charge, houses of worship organizing mutual aid programs. What other examples of hope and resilience have you experienced or heard about? Shout them out and I'll repeat them. Examples of hope and resilience.
Stories of restaurant owners in Minneapolis handing out samosas to marchers.
Restaurant owners handing out samosas to marchers in the street.
Naked bikers.
Naked bikers. Indeed.
Resistance training here at our fellowship.
Resistance training here in our fellowship yesterday.
Monks walking from Texas.
Monks walking for peace from Texas to Washington, D.C.
Bay City Council has a resolution, 3 resolutions tomorrow to resist ICE.
Bay City Council taking up resolutions to resist ICE.
Haven Home picking up people as they're released in the middle of the night, in the middle of the winter, with nothing.
Yes. Haven Home
Haven Home in Minneapolis.
in Minneapolis.
They release people and they don't have coats, they don't have phones, they don't have
Right.
anything, just go.
Picking up people who've been detained, who are released in the bitter cold, then providing coats, hats, shelter, phones, yeah, the whole deal. That's happening here in Baldwin as well, Baldwin, Michigan.
Democratic candidates winning in very, very red districts in the South.
Democratic candidates winning in very red districts in the South. A couple, anyway.
We have some online.
Yeah.
Jean Atkin mentioned fostering a baby. Connie mentioned singing during protest. Shayna Barth mentioned teachers and school staff protecting students and families. And Jean Atkin mentioned federal employees continuing to do their jobs under duress.
Indeed. Thank you all. Examples of hope and resilience. Thank you. At the height of the pandemic, in a late January sermon delivered to 69 people only online, I shared the story of Albert Camus, which I will share again today. Albert Camus was a French philosopher, author, and journalist who won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1957. He was born in Algeria on the northern coast of Africa. He spent his childhood in poverty there. He never knew his father, who died in World War I, and he suffered from tuberculosis. Camus defied the odds, though, and later studied philosophy at the University of Algiers. He was in Paris when the Germans invaded France in 1940. He tried to flee, but was unable to. So he stayed and finally joined the French resistance as an editor-in-chief of an outlawed newspaper. Years later, Camus explained that despite the horrors he experienced in World War II, nihilism, fascism, and so on, he had not despaired. In 1954, he reflected on his difficulties in life and his return to the Mediterranean beaches of Algeria. In the midst of winter, he wrote, I finally learned that there was in me an invincible summer. Even in the worst years of our madness, the memory of that sky never left me. As someone who also relies on the natural world for solace and sustenance, I can appreciate Camus' sustaining memories of that sky. When my family and I lived in Chicago for a short time, it was slivers of that sky, in part, that got us through that period. Each of us has our own ways of coping with hardship. In today's prayer, the Reverend Michelle Collins invites us Unitarian Universalists to seek resilience by coming back to our interdependence, giving thanks to the web that upholds us, the hands that have steadied us, the voices that remind us we are not alone, the presence of those who have leaned on us. She reminded us that resilience is not a solitary triumph, but is woven into community. Shared meals, gentle questions, laughter that breaks through grief, courage borrowed from one another when our own runs thin. Our centering song today invited us to approach our lives incrementally. One more step, one more word, one more prayer, one more song at a time, until there is peace and harmony for us and for everyone. And the Reverend Margaret Weiss offered her recipe for resilience, a work in progress from generations who've gone before with her own flavor added. You might find similar but different recipes elsewhere. And I invite you to write your own recipe sometime. Reverend Weiss has included ingredients like courage, tears of failure and doubt, deep listening, silence and laughter, trust, wonder, and a heaping scoop of naps and snacks, because no doubt self-care is necessary. I'm sure my recipe would include ice cream, walks in the woods, and regulating my limbic system through breathing. And maybe full body massages. And my cat on my lap. Reverend Weiss invited us to mix these ingredients with family and friends, those who challenge us to be our best selves and those with whom we disagree. Revisit this recipe, make it often, and share it with others. And by all means, hold on to those leftovers, because you'll need them after a long day that challenges your soul. As an aside, I was grateful to be reminded by today's story that our Muslim friends and neighbors will begin observing the holy month of Ramadan this week. It's a timely reminder that we need to be mindful of others' beliefs, practices, and needs at all times. So in your heads, I invite you to ask yourself, who challenges you to be your best self? Take a second. What faces come to mind? With whom do you tend to disagree? A spouse, a child, a neighbor, a coworker? And what might a conversation with them about resilience be like? You might be surprised by the common ground you could find. Our gathering song reminded us that ours is not a caravan of despair. Yes, Unitarian Universalists recognize difficulty, trauma, and loss. We acknowledge the pressure of living, but we don't dwell there alone. We also persist through uncertainty. We continue when clarity is distant. We remember, maybe when we're reminded, that we are part of an enduring, connected, interdependent web from which we might seek support. You are a survivor. And you are not alone. Last week we talked about some tools we might use to help us cope. This week, who or what are those threads in your web, your support network, that you call on or could call on in times of need? As we live and move and breathe through the coming months, remember that we won't always be in a state of crisis. Life isn't a bed of roses, but it also isn't just a bed of thorns. When we experience trauma or moral injury, may love find us in our pain. May we return to ourselves, to one another, and to the work of love. May the spirit of Saint Valentine live among us in the love and compassion we offer one another. And may we know that there's going to be some brighter days. May we continue to offer and receive care, trusting that connections sustain us, even when we cannot see the whole picture. Together, may we embody the soft, stubborn practice of resilience. And in the midst of winter, may we learn that there is in us an invincible summer. May it be so, and blessed be.